Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's Voice of the World. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Jharkhand, West Bengal and Bihar will inaugurate key developmental projects. Amidst rising need for humanitarian aid, India reiterates its support for Palestinian people, affirms continuation of relief supply and assistance.
The conflict must not spread within or beyond the region. And let me emphasize that a two-state solution is necessary more than ever before.
Russia is ready for dialogue with United States but rejected any attempts to force into talks. Putin also warns Western countries against sending troops to Ukraine. In a tragic incident in Bangladesh, at least 43 people have been killed after a fire broke out in a multi-story building. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin his visit to three eastern states of India on Friday. First, he will visit Jharkhand, where he will inaugurate, dedicate and lay the foundation stone of multiple developmental projects worth 35,700 crore rupees. Prime Minister will also dedicate Sindri fertilizer plant to the nation, third fertilizer plant to be revived in the country after revival of fertilizer plants in Gorakhpur and Ramagundam. PM will also dedicate to nation North Karanpura super thermal power project in Chhatra. Railway sector of the state will also get major boost with the Prime Minister flagging off 3 new trains. Later in the day, Prime Minister Modi will visit West Bengal, where he will inaugurate, dedicate and lay the foundation stone of multiple developmental projects worth 22,000 crore rupees. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone of Raghunathpur Thermal Power Station Phase 2, besides inaugurating Haldia Barauni crude oil pipeline. Several other projects related to infrastructure, railroad, LPG supply and wastewater treatment to be the key focus areas in West Bengal. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi will be in Bihar, where in a significant boost to the energy sector, nationwide projects worth 1.48 lakh rupees crore related to oil and gas sector will be taken up. And voicing grave concern over the situation in Palestine, India reiterated its support for Palestinian people and affirmed continuation of relief supply and assistance. Speaking at the 55th session of UN Human Rights Council, Indian envoy to UN, Ambassador Arindam Bakshi, said that the conflict must not spread within or beyond the region and a two-state solution is necessary more than ever before.
In Palestine continues to be of grave concern, with large-scale loss of civilian lives, especially women and children, and an alarming humanitarian crisis. This is clearly unacceptable, and we strongly condemn the death of all civilians. Mr. President, we must be clear that terrorism and hostage-taking are unacceptable and deserve our unequivocal condemnation. India has a zero-tolerance approach to terrorism. The return of hostages is imperative. We must also be clear about the universal obligation to observe international humanitarian law. Further, there is an immediate need for a sustainable humanitarian corridor to provide relief. The conflict must not spread within or beyond the region. And let me emphasize that a two-state solution is necessary more than ever before. These are not choices, these are all musts, and unless we are able to address all of them, we are not going to really solve the problem. India, on its part, will continue to support the Palestinian people through our bilateral development partnership, and we will also continue to send humanitarian assistance to the people of Palestine.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, on Thursday addressed the inaugural session of the Asia Economic Dialogue 2024 virtually. The External Affairs Minister highlighted the 3 broad geo-economic challenges stemming from the nature of globalization.
This edition focuses very appropriately on the geo-economic challenges of our times. Today, these broadly fall into 3 categories. One is the supply chain challenge that has arisen from a particular economic hardwiring created by the globalization era. Whether it is finished products, intermediates or components, the world is dangerously dependent on a limited number of suppliers. The second is the technology challenge, which grows by the day given our reliance on it for more aspects of our daily life. The digital era has given it an altogether different connotation because it is so intrusive. The third is the challenge of over-concentrations stemming from the nature of globalization. They are heightened by unpredictability and opaqueness. We discovered this most sharply during the COVID period. But from time to time, we are also reminded when market dominance is weaponized.
And for the first time in the world, an Indian company has developed a kit that can convert any two-wheeler into a hybrid vehicle. Electronic vehicles are the future of transportation, but there are many fears in the minds of customers about EVs like low range and charging problems. A solution to these problems has now been found in India.
It's a conversion to petrol bike to hybrid mode, electric as well as petrol. One for the petrol, one for the electric one. For example, first 100 kilometer if you run from electric and your battery got exhausted, then you switch off this battery one and switch on the petrol one. It's a matter of fraction of seconds only. If you talk about the range, it varies from 60 to 120 kilometer. And for speed, it varies from 70 to 125 kilometer.
And in a significant move in semiconductor space, the Indian cabinet has approved the setting up of 3 semiconductor units, marking a big leap towards making India a self-reliant country in this space and break the global hegemony of any one country. These units will make chips for sectors including defense, automobiles and telecommunications and will begin construction within the next 100 days. India's Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw told reporters in briefing on Thursday, with this move, India is set to emerge as a design and manufacturing hub for semiconductors in years to come.
The Union Cabinet, chaired by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has given go-ahead for the establishment of 3 semiconductor units under Development of Semiconductors and Display Manufacturing Ecosystems in India program. All 3 units will start construction within the next 100 days. Advanced packaging technologies will be indigenously developed in India with this announcement.
देश में सेमीकंडक्टर फैब का अप्रूवल देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा निर्णायक मोड़ है ये, और आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने की जो संकल्प लिया है प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, उस संकल्प की बहुत बड़ी ये सिद्धि है। पहली कॉमर्शियल फैब भारत की बनेगी टाटा और पावर चिप ताइवान, इनके कोलैबोरेशन से धोलेरा स्पेशल इंडस्ट्रियल रीजन के अंदर बनेगी पहली semiconductor fab.
The multitude of strategic significance of Mission Semiconductor ranges from establishing the semiconductor ecosystem in India to leveraging India's deep capabilities in chip design and developing capabilities in chip fabrication. More semiconductor units will also lead to accelerated employment in automotive, electronics, manufacturing and other sectors. Advanced packaging technologies will also be indigenously developed in India with Thursday's announcement. The Indian Cabinet's approval of semiconductor fab or semiconductor fabrication unit is a significant step towards making India a self-reliant country in semiconductor space. Besides this, India is also seeking foreign investments for its indigenous semiconductor industry for the development and design of fabrication units impacting India's semiconductor ambitions. Sakal Bhatt's report for DD India.
And Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Wednesday launched the electronic data interchange at land customs stations of the India's northeastern states via virtual mode in New Delhi. With these remote LCS getting EDI enabled, the movement of goods and customs clearances will now become more efficient and will enhance regional trade and economic growth.
In the densely populated areas such as the northeastern border with Bangladesh, sensitive border areas such as the northeastern border with Myanmar, these are very highly vulnerable areas. So it is important that we keep ourselves alert when we are manning these posts. As much as you would want to make sure that smuggling of precious metal or precious metal or dangerous drugs don't come into India, you need to act on every actionable intelligence that you receive when you're talking about the country's cultural rich heritage. We do not want many of our antiques to just be taken away like this. India often exchanges or provides on a lien the Buddhist relics to various friendly nations. We send them as a part of our goodwill building.
Well, every year the world observes the Rare Disease Day in the last week of February, highlighting the importance of research and advocacy. While new ones are still being discovered, the National Institute of Health identified rare over 7,000 diseases. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke with country head of AstraZeneca, Dr. Sanjeev Panchal. Take a listen.
In last few months, we have done two collaboration. One is Government of Karnataka. We've signed an MOU to have AI technology for X-ray screening for lung diseases, 29 modalities, which means that all district hospitals in Karnataka, X-rays which are happening would be screened to find an early signals of lung cancer. Now, this is coming from a purpose of eliminating lung cancer as a cause of death in future, but we are doing this with Karnataka government.
That's a project you've already done in Goa as well.
And then after that, we did in Goa. Oh, so we announced that collaboration first in October, and then in January we announced with Goa. So now we are working with each state government, for example, because we want to really make an impact. It's difficult to make an impact. The purpose is to eliminate lung cancer as a cause of death one day. Now, this has to happen at a very large scale, and we are using AI for it. But what we have heard before and what we are doing now is to really partnering with the government. First, we were doing in the private market, but now we believe that we have to collaborate for academia with the government institution. That's why Karnataka government and Goa government, and now we want to take this forward in other states as well.
And the Ministry of Women and Child Development hosted the Poshan Utsav Celebrating Nutrition event in New Delhi on Thursday. The event was graced by Minister Smriti Irani and Bill Gates co-chair Melinda Gates Foundation. Poshan Utsav aims to promote holistic nutrition among children by utilizing popular cartoon characters through collaboration with Amar Chitra Katha.
I really appreciate the creative way that the ministry is working to teach kids about food in a way that will connect with them. Poshan Utsav is a great example of incorporating local context and cultural practices to promote nutritional foods across India's diverse communities. Minister, your efforts to improve nutrition outcomes, expand childcare, and provide opportunities for women's economic empowerment are driving progress for India's women and girls. And as we all know, when you improve the life of a woman, there's a ripple effect. You improve her community and her country. I'm optimistic that we'll continue to see a lot of progress in nutrition in the years ahead, and that India will be at the forefront of that progress.
And in an effort to endorse cultural heritage and traditional nutritional practices, a Poshan Utsav book has been curated and launched. This book serves as a comprehensive guide on food, providing insights from cultural, social, economic and scientific perspectives. Its purpose is to revive ancient nutrition traditions, facilitate knowledge exchange and support intergenerational learning. Additionally, the book serves as a repository for appreciating the rich culinary heritage and nutritional diversity of the country. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's Defence Research and Development Organization conducted 2 successful flight tests of very short-range air defense system missile on Wednesday and Thursday. The tests were conducted from Integrated Test Range off the coast of eastern state of Odisha. These tests were carried out against high-speed unmanned aerial targets under different interception scenarios. The targets were intercepted and destroyed by the missiles. The three-day Asia Economic Dialogue 2024 started on a strong note on Thursday with the inaugural session on the topic promoting economic integration in South Asia. The panelists included Foreign Secretaries of India, Nepal, Bangladesh and was chaired by Ambassador Gautam Bambawale, former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. India's Jammu and Kashmir concluded its first ever Agri-Med Science Congress 2023-24 on Thursday. The three-day annual event was held in Sher-e-Kashmir University of Agricultural Sciences and Technology. Experts from agriculture, medical sciences, biomedical research, Ayush and Unani medicine gathered together to discuss reshaping bioeconomy towards One Health. The goal of the event is to bring people from medical science and agriculture sciences to one platform. Scientists made a surprising discovery in the foothills of the Western Ghats in India of a mushroom growing out of the side of a frog. This is the first time that a mushroom has been observed growing out of a living being. The frog was not captured. Instead, the researchers took pictures of it and documented it in a note published in the journal Reptiles and Amphibians. Fungus experts identified the white growth to be a bonnet mushroom, which usually grows on dead and rotting wood. And still to come on DD India News Hour. In a bid to become more self-sufficient, Ukraine significantly increased its use of domestic-made weapons and military equipment. Polish government and farmers are on the same side and have the same goal, says Polish Prime Minister after meeting farmers. And Biden and Trump walked to the US-Mexico border in Texas on Thursday amidst influx of immigrants becoming a dominant issue in November presidential elections.
The curious case of Julian Assange. The future of lunar exploration. And the biggest snake discovered in the Amazon rainforests. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lapakshi Kuran, and moving on, the U.S. military conducted strikes that posed a threat to ships in the Red Sea. U.S. Central Command said in a post on X that military officials conducted strikes on Thursday against 6 mobile anti-ship cruise missiles and an aerial drone. Earlier, U.S. military intercepted an unmanned aerial vehicle over the southern Red Sea in self-defense. These actions were taken to safeguard the freedom of navigation and enhance the safety and security of international waters for U.S. Navy and merchant vessels. And Yemen's Houthis will introduce military surprises in their Red Sea operations. In a televised speech, the group's leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, has said that their position is clear and operations will continue in a highly efficient manner in the direction of the Red Sea. Houthi militants have repeatedly launched drones and missiles against international commercial shipping since mid-November, saying they are acting in solidarity with Palestinians against Israel's military actions in Gaza. On the other hand, Ukrainian forces have pushed back Russian troops from the village of Orlivka, west of Avdiivka, but the situation on the eastern front remains difficult. Orlivka is less than 2 kilometers northwest of Lasto-Chikne, which was occupied this week by Russian forces. Russian forces last week captured the eastern Ukrainian city of Avdiivka after a month-long assault and are pressing on other areas along the front line. Well, Ukraine has significantly increased its use of domestic-made weapons and military equipment as Kyiv aims to become more self-sufficient amid faltering Western military aid. Deputy Defense Minister said that use of domestically produced equipment has significantly increased, more importantly, to become self-sufficient. The minister also called for Kyiv's foreign partners to boost investment and participation in joint production with Ukrainian companies. Ukraine has signed dozens of contracts for joint production of technology exchanges with Western allies. Meanwhile, Ukrainian president appointed Volodymyr Karpenko as new commander of country's logistic forces on Thursday. Karpenko, previously logistic commander of country's ground forces, replaced Ole Huliaka, who had held the position since 2021. Karpenko's appointment was the latest in a series of personnel changes in the military, including the naming of Alexander Syrsky as commander-in-chief of the armed forces in place of Valery Zelenskyy. Meanwhile, the Group of 20 or the G20 finance ministers failed to agree on a joint statement as they wrapped up talks on Thursday, with divisions over the wars in Gaza and Ukraine overshadowing efforts to forge a consensus on global economic development. Brazil, which hosted finance ministers and central bank chiefs from the Group of 20 major economies, issued its own summary in lieu of a shared communique. Brazil's summary cited the economic risk of wars and escalating conflicts, but urged a debate on them in other venues. Well, a day before the funeral of Russia's main opposition figure, Alexei Navalny, and amid the 2-year-long war with Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a powerful State of the Nation address on Thursday. Putin warned that any escalation by NATO could trigger the use of nuclear weapons and expressed his growing confidence in the war's direction. He also accused NATO of preparing to strike Russian territory. Saeed Absarul Hassan has more on this.
Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered his annual State of the Nation address on Thursday, updating the nation on the war in Ukraine, Moscow's nuclear capability, the country's economy, and relations with the West. The speech comes 2 weeks ahead of a presidential election in which Putin is expected to win another 6-year term in landslide. Putin cautioned NATO countries, stating that they risk nuclear conflict by deploying troops to Ukraine.
We also have weapons. They know about this. And I just said we also have a weapon that can hit targets on their territory. And they should understand that what they are doing now, trying to scare the whole world, it does risk a conflict with nuclear weapons, which means the destruction of civilization. Don't they understand this, or what?
Putin stated that Russia is prepared for a dialogue with the US on strategic stability, but he rejected any attempts to coerce Russia into negotiations.
Russia is ready for dialogue with the United States on the issue of strategic stability. Our position is clear. If you want to discuss the significant, important issue of security and stability, which is important for the entire planet, you must do so only in a single junction. Naturally, including all those aspects that affect our national interests and directly affect the security of our country.
Putin also said Russia had used advanced weapon systems, including Zircon hypersonic missiles, and that it held the military advantage in Ukraine. On the ground, Russia asserted control over a strategic village in the Ukrainian Avdiivka direction. Meanwhile, Ukraine reported a launching attack on Russian air defense system. The Russian army repelled several assaults by the Ukrainian army and initiated offensives in Kupiansk and other directions, resulting in destruction of the Ukrainian army equipment, including tanks, armored vehicles, and self-propelled artillery. Saeed Absarul Hassan for DD India.
Well, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Thursday held a meeting with leaders of various farmer groups. Donald Tusk said that Polish government and farmers are on the same side and have the same goal after the meeting. Like much of Europe, Poland has been gripped by protests in recent weeks as farmers demonstrate against European Union environmental regulations. Tusk said the provisions of the Green Deal, EU's regulations meant to tackle climate change, should be lifted or suspended, and he will negotiate it within the European Union.
The farmers for sure presented different views, different political sympathies, but we all finally believe that we are on the same side anyway. Our government, me personally, and the protesters have the same goal: to protect Polish farming, Polish market, and the European market against very unfair and crushing consequences. we have decided we will prepare precise demands of the Polish side, not only the protesters but also the government regarding changes in the Green Deal.
Kolejnym ciosem i muszą być.
And US President Joe Biden will talk to Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Friday about high-priority global challenges, including military aid for Ukraine and humanitarian aid for Gaza. They are due to hold a bilateral meeting at the White House. Caroline Meloni reports from Washington.
The US has been struggling to get new military aid spending for Ukraine through Congress, with divisions within the House and Senate on what the priority should be for spending. But President Biden still insists the US supports Kyiv in their campaign to fight back against Russian aggression as part of a more than 2-year-long war. It's a high agenda item for Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, with Italy also holding the current G7 presidency, a role which involves coordination with allies in NATO on their security alliance. The US has also honed in on more sanctions for Russia's actions and repression, particularly for those involved in the imprisonment of the opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died or was killed, his family say, in prison in Russia. Well, the two leaders will also discuss preventing any more escalation of violence in the Middle East. The US has been pushing for a truce between Israel and Hamas, with Egypt and Qatar supporting talks also to get all hostages freed. But getting humanitarian aid into people who need it in Gaza has become even more difficult, with the United Nations accusing Israel of blocking shipments. And on Thursday, Israeli troops fired on a large crowd of Palestinians who were trying to get food aid from a convoy in Gaza City, killing more than 100 people. An attack that's been widely condemned, and with President Biden saying it could actually make getting to a ceasefire even more difficult. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. No signs of resolution to South Korean doctors' strike. Only 3% doctors return to work. Former professor donates $1 billion to New York City Medical School to pay for student tuition. And Cape Town artist retells story of township life, which was deeply rooted in community through his paintings.
The curious case of Julian Assange. The future of lunar exploration. And the biggest snake discovered in the Amazon rainforests. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Jharkhand, West Bengal and Bihar will inaugurate key developmental projects. Amidst rising need for humanitarian aid, India reiterates its support for Palestinian people, affirms continuation of relief supply and assistance. Russia is ready for dialogue with the United States but rejected any attempts to force into talks. Putin also warns Western countries against sending troops to Ukraine. And in a tragic incident in Bangladesh, at least 43 people have been killed after a fire broke out in a multi-story building. Well, a massive fire at a 7-story building in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka has killed at least 43 people and left dozens injured. According to the fire service officials, the fire originated in a restaurant and quickly spread to other floors. Bangladesh's Health Minister Samantha Lal Sain told reporters after visiting the Dhaka Medical College Hospital that the injured are admitted with severe burns and are in critical condition. Relatives of the fire victims waited at the hospital to receive the bodies of their loved ones, while some were seen grieving outside the emergency department. And India's special correspondent Naval Sangh Parmar joins us with more information from Bangladesh fire. Well, Parmar, what is the situation right now? How many people have been rescued?
Actually, the incident happened at around 10 p.m. yesterday night. So within 2.5 hours, the fire was dozed off with the frantic efforts of the firefighting service and civil defense. Around 43 people lost their lives in this tragic fire, and out of that 43, 26 were women and 3 were the children. Around 33% lost their lives during the at the Medical College Hospital, Dhaka Medical College Hospital, and 10 at the Sheikh Hasina Institute of Burns and Plastic Surgery. This building is located in a colonial era locality of the Dhaka, which is housing a residential as well as the commercial properties in the localities. And it was the fire started in a Kachi Bhai called a restaurant, and which spread across the building, and they gutted the around 3 to 4 floor of the building, and that lost the 43 lives of the people, right. And there is too many loss regarding the material as well as the building. Yes.
All right, Parmar, you also said that the fire started in a restaurant there. Has the basic cause of such a massive fire been ascertained as yet?
Actually, the restaurant is located on first floor, and above that there were another food outlets in the same building. So once the fire broke out in the particular restaurant, then it spread across the other floor and other building, because they were also housing the gas cylinder kind of thing. And once the fire is massive and there are very few options for people who were on the other floor or top floor to get down, because the fire, there were no scope for people to come down with the staircase as well as lift. Electricity was cut off, so there were no lift facility, and in this kind of condition, lift is not also viable. So people tried to jump off the building, and many of them lost their lives in that also. And second thing, many of them killed themselves because of suffocation. So this was the situation.
All right, thank you for that information from there. And moving on, U.S. President Joe Biden and likely Republican challenger Donald Trump walked the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas on Thursday. The duo visited the U.S.-Mexico border amidst influx of immigrants, becoming a dominant issue for the voters. Each chose an optimal location to make his points, and their schedules were remarkably similar. They each got a briefing on operations and issues, walked along the border and gave remarks that overlapped. But that's where the comparisons ended. While Trump chose inflammatory language to describe the border issue and slam his rival's policies, Biden challenged Trump to join him in a united front on border security bill.
Now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime, but that's a little bit long, so we'll just leave it. But every time you hear the term migrant crime, you know where that comes from.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people.
Well, a Florida judge is holding a hearing later on Friday to determine a schedule for when one of Donald Trump's criminal cases will go to trial. This case centers around Trump's handling of classified documents once he left office. It comes after Judge Elian Cannon this week denied his co-defendants' bid to review the records they allegedly moved for the former president. U.S. correspondent William Denselaw reports for more.
This hearing will focus on a few key details, including legal wranglings over evidence, potential document redactions, and the trial's timeline. In a win for prosecutors earlier this week, Judge Eileen Cannon denied a request from Donald Trump's co-defendants, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, to review documents they're accused of helping Donald Trump to conceal. Both men face charges relating to destroying or concealing documents, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and making false statements. Nauta and de Oliveira have both pleaded not guilty. In her ruling that could well speed up legal proceedings, the judge said the special counsel had met the burden to withhold classified discovery, and that reviewing the materials wouldn't be useful in their defence. Cannon must still rule on whether Donald Trump's legal team can access a batch of classified materials the Justice Department deems sensitive to national security. The former president has also pleaded not guilty to charges that he kept hold of classified documents at his Florida home after leaving the White House and obstructing efforts to recover them. The trial is currently scheduled for May and is one of 4 criminal cases that Trump faces as he aims to regain the presidency in November's election. He denies wrongdoing in all these cases and says the US justice system has been weaponized against him. William Denselaw in New York reporting for DD India.
And the German Minister of Interior, Nancy Faeser, and her Ecuadorian counterpart, Monica Palencia, agreed on Thursday to cooperate in combating terrorism, drug trafficking and other forms of crime that affect the two countries. Faeser said Europe has also part of the responsibility in fighting drug trafficking, as it is one of the main sales markets. The German top official arrived in Ecuador after visiting Brazil and Peru. She will end her Latin American tour in Colombia. And Iranians will vote in a parliamentary election on Friday. It is seen as a litmus test of the clerical establishment's popularity amid growing discontent over economic, political and social strains. Iran's clerical rulers are seeking a big turnout to shore up their legitimacy, damaged following months of mass protest ignited by the death in custody of a young woman in 2022. On the same day as the parliamentary vote, Iran holds elections to pick 88 members of a powerful clerical body known as the Assembly of Experts, which is tasked with appointing or dismissing the supreme leader. And more than a week after, thousands of doctors walked off the job, but their dispute with the government shows no signs of resolution. Only 3% of the doctors protesting against the South Korean government have returned to work as of Wednesday, one day before the Thursday deadline. In an email to the protesting resident doctors delivered on Thursday, the head of Seoul National University Hospital appealed to them to be back to work, marking the first official call from a major hospital chief in South Korea, urging them to resume their duties. The South Korean government has announced that starting in March, medical licenses of intern and resident doctors who are still absent from their post will be revoked for at least 3 months, among other legal actions. Yet off-duty doctors are still reluctant to return to work. Interns and resident doctors in South Korea have been on strike for several days, protesting against the proposed increase in medical school admissions. Well, the U.S. Republicans have criticized U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at a hearing for failing to disclose his prostate cancer surgery and subsequent hospitalization to President Joe Biden. With support from Democrats on the House of Representatives Armed Services Committee, Austin sought to dispel accusations that his absence jeopardized national security or demonstrated any lack of influence. But Republicans questioned how Biden could go for days without knowing Austin was hospitalized. Austin has apologized for the way he handled the matter, including to Biden himself, but his appearance before the committee was the first time lawmakers could directly question him. And weather update, incessant rain has flooded many areas in northern Bolivia, displacing thousands of residents and damaging houses and businesses. Over 900 families have been affected by rains in the area, and damage was reported to be the heaviest in the northern Bolivian city of Cobija. In Cochabamba, the rural community of La Quina was buried in mud. The administrative capital, La Paz, has been put on red alert for a disaster risk. At least 42 people have died, according to the latest reports. Well, atmospheric rivers are becoming a rising threat to homes in California's coastline. Earlier this month, a second so-called Pineapple Express weather system pounded the state with heavy rainfall and hurricane-force winds within just a week after the first round of atmospheric rivers had battered California's coastal cliffs. California's governor, Gavin Newsom, declared a state of emergency in 8 countries with a combined population of more than 20 million people. Flash flood warnings were also issued for parts of Los Angeles, Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. And Abu Dhabi's first Babs Hindu temple, recently inaugurated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is likely to open its doors to the public from Friday. Authorities said that the temple will be open to the public from the 1st of March from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. The temple will remain closed for visitors every Monday. There is no entry fee. However, devotees have to register on the official website or through the Festival of Harmony app before their visit. The unique temple in the desert spreads over a 27-acre plot in Abu Murika. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Panama's authorities seized 5 tons of drugs in the Caribbean that were on board a boat bound for Spain on Thursday. The packets were found at the Caribbean port of Colon inside a banana cargo. Panamanian authorities have seized 19 tons of drugs this year so far. Dr. Ruth Gottesman, a former professor of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, is donating $1 billion to the New York City school to pay for the tuition of all of its students. With the gift, all current full-time students will have their spring 2024 semester tuition reimbursed, and all future students will attend the school tuition-free. Japanese archaeologists have unearthed a Hittite clay tablet in Turkey dating back 3,300 years to the era of the Hittite Empire. The tablet was discovered at the Buklulale ruins in central Turkey. The tablet had engravings of the Hurrian language that was used for religious rituals. For the first time, the University of the Philippines is offering a course to study the celebrity status of 14-time Grammy-winning singer-songwriter Taylor Swift and her impact on the society. More than 300 students have signed up for the elective course ahead of Swift's Eras Tour in Asia this week. South African artist Mongezi Gam is retelling the story of his roots in his most recent collection dubbed Ubomi Kwalanga. Through his art, Gam reflects on his life in the oldest township in South Africa, which was deeply rooted in community and belonging before it was affected by unemployment and crime. And still to come on DD India News Now. The US markets ended higher at closing bells as inflation data supports Fed's rate cut view. The 4th edition of Khelo India University Games 2023 concluded in Guwahati on Thursday. And we tell you about the exciting volleyball tournament organized by Indian Air Force in New Delhi. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. The US markets ended higher at closing bell, supported by AI-linked tech stocks, as inflation data and comments from Federal Reserve officials helped shape expectations for the timing of the central bank's interest rate cuts. The most important of these released data announced post-closing bells was the inflation snapshot in the personal consumption expenditure series. This time, the numbers came on the expected lines, with the headline price index up 2.4% in January from December's 2.6%, and the core reading up by 2.8% from 2.9%. This deceleration amidst reduced numbers is expected to keep rate cut hopes alive, even if they are not likely to come soon. Heavyweight AI tech firm NVIDIA advanced as the biggest boost to the benchmark S&P index and Nasdaq, while smaller rival Advanced Micro Devices surged. Stocks of other tech firms associated with NVIDIA's products rose ahead of its report after the bell. At close, the S&P 500 gained 0.51% to end at 5,095.78 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.90% to 16,091.93. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.07% and ended at 38,973.09. Asian markets traded higher on Friday, tracking overnight rally on Wall Street and inflation data and comments from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Japan's Nikkei 225 gained at 0.72%, while the Topix index rose 0.50%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index futures indicated a lower opening. South Korea markets are shut for the Movement Day holiday.
Inflation now has been on a steady trajectory toward the Federal Reserve's target since the middle of 2022. And while the CPI and the personal consumption expenditures deflator that we saw this morning have been giving somewhat mixed results, indicating that the last mile of inflation may be somewhat more challenging to accomplish, the trend clearly remains in place and sets the stage for the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates sometime near the midpoint of this year.
And on to some sports update now. India's Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand advanced to the women's double quarterfinals of the German Open Super 300 badminton tournament on Thursday. The Indian pair pulled off a comfortable 21-10, 21-11 straight game win over the Czech Republic duo of Sona Horinkova and Katerina Zuzakov in a round of 16 match. The Indian duo will next play the winner of the match between Francisca Corbett and Alison Lee and sixth seeds Jing Yi and Xiumin Liu. However, it was curtains for India in the women's and men's single event, where India's Akarshi Kashyap lost to sixth seed Mia Blechfeldt of Denmark in the round of 16, and Satish Kumar Karunakaran was shown the door by Ireland's Nahat Nguyen in the men's single second round. Well, the fourth edition of Khelo India University Games 2023 Ashtalakshmi, which started on the 17th of February, were officially declared closed by the Assam Sports Minister Nandita Gurlosa in Guwahati on Thursday. Take a look at this report.
A glittering closing ceremony with musical performances from local artists marked the end of 4th Khelo India University Games 2023 in the presence of Assam's Sports Minister Nandita Gurlosa and Joint Secretary of India's Sports Ministry Prem Kumar Jha on Thursday. Chandigarh University were crowned the overall champions of the Khelo India University Games 2023 with a total of 71 medals, including 32 gold, 18 silver and 21 bronze. This is the first time that Chandigarh University has won the overall crown. Lovely Professional University were a distant second with 20 gold, 14 silver and 8 bronze, while Guru Nanak Dev University with 12 gold, 20 silver and 19 bronze were only contingent apart from the champions to cross the 50 medal mark. Speaking on the occasion, Nandita Gurlosa lauded the initiative of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his vision of youth empowerment through sports. She also hailed the efforts of Assam government in successfully hosting the Khelo India University Games.
Happily, I'm standing here, yet another cap in Assam's feather, as the state successfully hosted another multidisciplinary national level event, the 4th edition of the Khelo India University Games 2023 Ashtalakshmi, setting a new standard in hospitality and organization. The Khelo India initiative, based on Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi's vision of youth empowerment through sports, has become a flagship annual event and the 4th edition of Khelo India University Games 2023.
The 4th edition of Khelo India University Games witnessed participation of more than 5,000 athletes from over 200 universities in the 20 disciplines held across the various venues in Assam and other northeastern states. The event witnessed several record-breaking performances in various events from the athletes, setting a new on-field benchmark. The Khelo India University Games is a part of the Indian government's Khelo India initiative that was launched in 2016. The Khelo India mission focuses on promoting grassroots sports and identifying youth talents from across the country.
Well, France and Juventus midfielder Paul Pogba has been banned for 4 years for a doping offence earlier this season. Pogba was provisionally suspended by Italy's National Anti-Doping Tribunal in September after testing positive for testosterone, a banned substance. The test performed after Juve's 3-0 Serie A season opening victory at Udinese on August 20 detected testosterone, a hormone that increases athletes' endurance. The 30-year-old was an unused substitute in that game. Pogba's positive doping test was also confirmed in a counter-analysis on a second sample in October. Juventus did not comment, but a source confirmed that the club had been notified about the decision of a 4-year ban and will assess the next steps. Indian Air Force organised an exciting volleyball tournament in New Delhi on Thursday known as the 18th Air Force Civilians Volleyball Inter-Command Tournament. It showcased the athletic talents of civilian employees of Indian Air Force. In a thrilling final match, Headquarter Maintenance Command triumphed over Headquarter Western Air Command 3-0 to claim the championship trophy. The closing ceremony was graced by Air Marshal C.R. Mohan, AVSM.
Sports have long been an integral aspect of the Indian Air Force. Continuing this proud tradition, the Indian Air Force organized the 18th Air Force Civilian Inter-Command Volleyball Tournament in New Delhi. In the final match, Headquarter Maintenance Command defeated Headquarter Western Air Command and lifted the trophy. The closing and prize distribution ceremony of the tournament was graced by the Air Marshal C.R. Mohan, AVSM VSM, who served as the chief guest of the event. He awarded the trophy to the victorious team.
I am very proud of our civilian employees and have full faith in their capability and dedication. I would like to reiterate that support for promoting sports and welfare activities for the civilian employees of the Indian Air Force will continue in the times to come. I congratulate ACA's PANC, Director PC, and officials of the PC Directorate for making this tournament such a grand success.
The tournament provided a platform for civilian employees of the Indian Air Force to showcase their athletic prowess and spirit of competition. By organizing such events, the Indian Air Force not only promotes physical fitness and sportsmanship, but also reinforces the sense of community and collaboration among its members. Sports is an integral part of the Indian Air Force, whether on the field or in the cockpit. The brilliance and the excellence of the sportsmanship permeates in every aspect of the Indian Air Force's operations, embodying the ethos of touch the sky with glory. With camera person Manmohan, Narayan Singh for DD India, New Delhi.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kuran from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.